This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Yan Xinghua's eyes glinted. Although he wanted to kill Shimin Jinlin as well, his top priority was to snatch Neilin Zhishuan's primordial yin to break through to the martial supreme realm. At that moment, Yunxiao was about to make another move, but his body suddenly froze and he dropped his arm because he sensed a familiar aura. A domineering aura descended from the sky. A long spear rushed into Yan Xinghua's saber qi like a dragon. It shook the saber and pressed down. Bang! The saber was broken by the spear's momentum. Then, the dragon-like spear's power exploded. An unparalleled dragon's power spread out, causing Yan Xinghua to spit out a mouthful of blood. He was thrown back with a face full of fear. A man appeared beside Neilin Zhishuan. He pointed the long spear in his hand at the ground and lifted it up. A lightning-like force burst out from the ground and shook the entire way, breaking the air. Yan Xinghua was shocked. His body flickered and he turned into a beam of light to escape. At the same time, he shouted, "Retreat." When the members of the Ice Cube saw that their big brother had run away, they immediately became a motley crew and scattered like birds and beasts. The chubby Zhu Jingyi was among them, and he was not slower than anyone else. Yunxiao gave the man a look and was about to turn and leave when an aura suddenly locked onto him. It was the man with the spear, and he said coldly, "You still want to escape after seeing me?" Yunxiao felt as if there was a dagger on his back. He did not need to turn his head to know that the spear was pointed at him. Yunxiao slowly turned around and said with a smile, "I didn't expect Brother Luo to still recognize me." "Humph. I'll recognize you even if you turn into ashes. My heavenly spirit ring was destroyed by you." The man shook his spear, and cold air immediately came out of it as he pointed it at Yunxiao's throat. A handsome face appeared in front of Yunxiao's eyes. It was Luo Qingyun, one of the little companions who had gone on an adventure with him in Mount Meru. Neilin Zhishuan felt an indescribable sense of gratitude after surviving the disaster. She slowly walked up and nodded, "So it's Brother Luo Qingyun. Thank you for saving my life, Brother Luo." However, she also felt that it was very strange and said, "Brother Luo, do you know this person?" In her eyes, Yunxiao was just a trash of a 5-star martial grandmaster, and he was in the same group as the person who wanted to capture him. An extreme disgust rose in her heart, and she frowned. Shimin Jinling, who was still a distance away, had not run far. This sudden change in situation made his face turn pale. Then, various colors appeared on his face, and his eyes were filled with gloom. He didn't want to see this ending. His fear of death was exposed in front of so many people. He couldn't wait for Neilin Zhishuan to be captured by that person to break her primordial yin. He didn't want her to be saved by others. Where would he put his face? This time, he didn't know whether to continue running or not. He just stood there in a daze, not knowing what to do. "Brother Luo, how have you been? Your spear is too sharp. Be careful, it might accidentally fire. Please don't hurt me." Yunxiao laughed and leaned slightly to avoid the spear. Luo Qingyun snorted coldly. The tip of the spear moved with Yunxiao's movements, but he refused to put down the spear. "You destroyed my heavenly spirit ring that day. If I remember correctly, you have a lot of treasures on you. You can just give me 3 or 4 as compensation." He had also seen Yunxiao collect a large number of treasures in Mount Meru. However, it had been a long time since he had broken through to the martial honor realm, while Yunxiao was still in the martial grandmaster realm, which surprised him. He had always been obsessed with Yunxiao's strength. Although he did not want to admit it, it was true that Yunxiao was stronger than him. For a long time, he had set defeating Yunxiao as his cultivation goal. He did not expect that when they met again, the gap between them would be as wide as heaven and earth. Luo Qingyun didn't know what to do for a moment. He was even a little angry at his opponent's failure. A cold look flashed across his face. He shook his spear in the air and it turned into a cold light, which was then absorbed into his body. He checked Yunxiao's cultivation base again and again, and after confirming that he was a 5 stars martial grandmaster, he suddenly lost interest and said in disappointment, "You've already lost the right to make me use my spear. Leave behind the items you obtained from Mount Meru and you can leave alive. Also, get out of the Red Moon City immediately and don't let me see you again in this life." The goal that he had been desperately cultivating to catch up to, the expert that he had been working hard to surpass in his heart, was actually a 5 stars martial grandmaster. This made him feel an unspeakable disappointment. He did not want to see Yunxiao like this, so he immediately ordered him to get lost. "I don't have anything," Yunxiao chuckled. "I'll take my leave first." He turned around and was about to leave. A trace of anger appeared on Luo Qingyun's face as he shouted, "Your strength hasn't improved, and your temper hasn't changed. Since you want me to do it, I'll fulfill your wish." He raised one hand, and without even moving his feet, he began to move at a high speed. As he closed in on Yunxiao, a beam of green light flashed at his fingertips. This time, he even held back a little, afraid that he would use too much force and kill the other party. Yunxiao chuckled and raised his hand as well. A flame condensed on his fingertip and pointed at Luo Qingyun's claw. Luo Qingyun's pupils contracted. That little flame actually brought him endless horror, and even his soul was trembling. His eyes lit up and he immediately clenched his hand into a fist, increasing his strength from 10% to 80%. The smile on Yunxiao's face did not fade. The phoenix true flame was extinguished at his fingertips, and he gently reached out his palm to slap it on Luo Qingyun's fist. An ancient astral wind emerged around his palm. Pa! With a crisp sound, Yunxiao's palm landed on Luo Qingyun's fist and clenched it. "Brother Luo, don't joke with me. You are a 7 stars martial supreme. Do you want to blow me up with one punch?" Luo Qingyun's face was as ugly as it could be. When his punch with 80% of his strength was grasped by his opponent's palm, an indescribable astral wind not only scattered his fist force, but also passed through his palm. It was like a whirlwind swirling in his fist, like a meat grinder that exploded all the meridians and bones in his right fist, almost turning it into a pool of meat paste. He looked over and saw that his entire right fist had turned purple-black, and he could no longer feel anything. Luo Qingyun took a deep breath and backed away. He was so shocked and angry. This kid is so powerful. Damn it. He had almost been tricked by him. This damn smiling face, I really want to tear him apart. I should have thought of this long ago. This kid is so easily seen through. He had always been a devil who pretended to be a pig to eat a tiger. Luo Qingyun's face was livid with anger, and his eyes flashed with a monstrous fighting spirit, as well as a trace of joy that was imperceptible. The person I've always wanted to catch up to didn't let me down. Neilin Zhishuan was behind Luo Qingyun. Although she did not see Yunxiao's action, she noticed that something was wrong. She hurried forward and asked with concern, "Brother Luo, are you all right?" Shimin Jinling, who was standing in the distance, saw Neilin Zhishuan's concerned expression and trembled with anger. A wave of resentment and jealousy burned in his chest. I should be the one she cares about. A peerless face, an alluring figure, and more importantly, the opportunity to break through to the martial supreme realm. All of these should be mine. A beast-like roar resounded in his heart. Luo Qingyun, how dare you snatch my things? I will never forgive you. Luo Qingyun didn't even notice Shimin Jinling's existence. Although his fist had been shattered, it was nothing to him. He could recover in a few days. Although he was slightly injured, his mood became better. He snorted and said, "I'm fine. Kid, your face is getting more and more annoying. I really want to step on it." "There are a lot of people who want to step on you," Yunxiao said with a grin. "You'll have to line up." "Humph. I'm busy right now," Luo Qingyun said coldly. "I'll let you go this time. I'll come back for you after I'm done." The anger on Luo Qingyun's face gradually disappeared. Neilin Zhishuan looked confused. Although she had not seen Yunxiao's move clearly, she was sure that it was a special move. Otherwise, Luo Qingyun would not have changed his attitude so quickly. The world was very realistic, and only strength spoke. Aya, we're late. It seems like we missed a good show. A faint light flickered in the air, and the space distorted. Two figures appeared and descended from the sky. Yunxiao was a little surprised to see another acquaintance. He really did not know what day it was today. Oh, it's Brother Su Qing from Tide Listening Pavilion and Brother Pei Mingyuan from Luli Villa. If the two of you had come earlier, I wouldn't have been bullied, Neilin Jishuan said happily. With Brother Luo and Brother Shimin here, who would dare to bully you? Pei Mingyuan glanced at Yunxiao, who was not far away, and said with a smile, could it be this kid? In the distance, Shimin Jinling's face was burning. He didn't know if these two people saw his previous embarrassment, especially Pei Mingyuan, who was also a 7-star child of the eastern region. If he knew, then he would probably be removed from the 7-star child list. He hated himself for showing up so early just to take advantage of her. Of course not. The bad guys have already been chased away by Brother Luo and everyone else, Neilin Jishuan said with a smile. The smile on her face bloomed, and it had a different kind of magic. Every frown and smile was extremely provocative, and everyone was infected by it. She said, Brother Luo, and everyone else, please come in and have a seat. Let me thank you for saving me. Luo Qingyun's expression changed slightly, as if he couldn't resist this natural charm. He replied, I have something to disturb Miss Jishuan. Neilin Jishuan turned around and smiled. Her charming expression melted as she said, Young Master Shimen, this, and Brother Luo's old acquaintance, please come in as well. She did not know Yunxiao's name, nor did she know if he was Luo Qingyun's good friend, so she had to call him an old friend. Yunxiao sneered. How can I do that? You are all young heroes of the eastern region. It's not convenient for me, a mere martial grandmaster, to join you. It's you. Su Qing was taken aback, and only then did he dare to confirm that it was Yunxiao. He had felt that it was Yunxiao at first sight, and now that he heard the voice, he was certain that it was him. You're still alive? Are you here for Jiang Ruobing's challenge tournament? Back in Mount Meru, he had been possessed by the martial emperor's divine sense and had broken through Di Jia's attack to escape. He thought that Yunxiao would definitely die inside, so he was quite surprised at first sight. I was lucky. It's all thanks to Brother Su's great ability that I was able to keep my life, Yunxiao said with a smile. I'm so lucky. Su Qing's expression gradually recovered and he said indifferently, You're too kind. Brother Li's strength was amazing that day. I didn't expect that after such a long time, you're still lingering in the Wuzong stage. Could it be that you were too seriously injured that day and your foundation was damaged? Humph. Luo Qingyun suddenly snorted coldly, complaining about the dissatisfaction in his heart. He had also been deceived by Yunxiao's cultivation base, which had crippled one of his fists. At this moment, he was still circulating the power of dragon essence to regulate his breath. But in the ears of the few people, there was a sense of disdain. I guess so, Yunxiao said with a smile. Judging from Brother Su's demeanor and temperament, you must have broken through to the martial honor realm, right? Brother Su, do you know this Wuzong? Pei Mingyuan was a little impatient, and his face was cold. He snorted, even if you're old acquaintances, there's no need to be polite with each other given the vast difference in strength between the two of you. Miss Jishuan is still waiting for us. Su Qing nodded slightly, and the look he gave Yunxiao became a little indifferent. I have something to talk to you about, so just stay by my side. Luo Qingyun snorted coldly again, but this time, he was gloating. He knew that Su Qing must also be thinking about Yunxiao's 9th-tier mystic artifacts. If Su Qing really dared to attack Yunxiao, he would be in deep trouble. Luo Qingyun was sure that Yunxiao's current strength was absolutely the most terrifying among all of them. His dragon fist, not to mention its unparalleled power, just the physical body of the true dragon conjured body alone could not be easily crushed by others. During this period of time, he thought that he had made rapid progress, but he did not expect that he would still be at a disadvantage in the first exchange. The blood in Luo Qingyun's body gradually began to boil, and he couldn't wait to fight him with all his might. Neilin Jishuan smiled. Heroes, please come in. If you stand outside for too long, some busybodies will say that I, Jishuan, don't know how to treat guests. Everyone filed in, and Nailanjiro ordered the maidservants to immediately serve wine. They sat opposite each other after taking their seats. Thank you for your help today, Big Brother Luo, allowing this little sister to survive. This cup of wine is for Big Brother Luo. Nailan Jishuan stood up and walked up to Luo Qingyun with a glass of wine in her hand. She clinked her glass with Luo Qingyun's and drank it in one gulp with gratitude. The crisp sound of the wine glass filled the air with an ambiguous atmosphere, causing the blood in the men's bodies to become somewhat restless. Each and every one of them was secretly shocked. This primordial body, coupled with the wonderful girl technique of the original embryo, was indeed extremely magical. Each and every one of her actions was not particularly charming, but it could still make men's hearts race. Shimin Jinlin's face was so dark that it was almost dripping water. Why does Brother Shimin look so unhappy? Pei Mingyuan smiled slightly and pretended to be surprised. He didn't see Shimin Jinlin running away earlier, but he had seen Shimin Jinlin's sullen look. He knew that there must be a hidden story, so he went with the flow and blew the water. Shimin Jinlin's face was red and white. He didn't know what Pei Mingyuan meant, but he could only snort. Nailan Jishuan's eyes flickered as she poured herself a small cup of wine. She gently moved in front of Shimin Jinlin and raised her cup. If not for young Master Shimin, I'm afraid that Jishuan would have already met with misfortune. This cup of wine is for young Master Shimin, to thank you for saving my life. Shimin Jinlin squeezed out a smile, as if he had already forgotten about his previous embarrassment. He said humbly, Sister Jishuan, you're too kind. It's my duty to help when I see injustice. There's no need to keep it in mind. He was so happy that he immediately forgot about his ugly state, as if he was really that noble. Shimin Jinlin took in the faint scent of the other's body, and his entire body felt indescribably soft and comfortable. He felt as if his entire body was about to melt after drinking the wine. Suddenly, a force came from between the two of them. The wine glass in Shimin Jinlin's hand suddenly exploded with a bang. Shimin Jinlin screamed in pain and immediately covered his mouth. He actually spat out a mouthful of blood. What's going on? Everyone was shocked and looked over in horror. Nailan Jishuan's heart also trembled. The sudden force was exactly the same as the force that had saved her from Yan Xinghua. Both times, it had exploded close to her, so she could clearly feel that it was powerful, overbearing, and even more hidden. No one could find it. Her heart skipped a beat. Wasn't Shimin Jinlin the one who had saved her? You coward. Shimin Jinlin's face was filled with shock and anger. He covered his mouth as a large amount of blood flowed out from the gaps between his fingers. The carefreeness that had been immersed in the warm fragrance suddenly disappeared as he stared at Nailan Jishuan coldly. It wasn't me. Nailan Jishuan said hurriedly. At this moment, no matter who it was, they would all think that she was the one who attacked. After all, she was the one who was the closest to the west gate of Jinling, and no one present had discovered the origin of the qi. Shimin Jinlin's face was filled with killing intent. His eyes were as cold as a wolf's as he stared at Nailan Jishuan. His eyes were filled with disbelief and cruelty, causing Nailan Jishuan's heart to sink. She immediately concluded that the person who had saved her was definitely not the one in front of her. There must be someone else. Since Jishuan said that it wasn't him, then it definitely wasn't her. I believe in her. Luo Qingyun said slowly. The aura on his body condensed into a dragon's might, which broke through the air and circled around Nailan Jishuan, protecting her from Shimin Jinling's sudden attack. Nailan Jishuan's heart was warm, and she cast a grateful look at Luo Qingyun. Pei Mingyuan was also confused, his fingers constantly tapping on the wine glass as he analyzed. It's impossible for the wine cup to explode for no reason. Even if it did explode, it would not have been able to hurt Brother Shimin. I also believe that this was definitely not done by little sister Jishuan, but the murderer must be among us. Or perhaps the murderer has an extremely powerful martial skill that allows him to hide in the surrounding void, making it impossible for anyone to detect him. Shimin Jinlin's expression turned cold. He looked at the dragon's might and said, since it's not Nailin Jishuan, could it be you, Luo Qingyun, who did it? He suddenly understood. He had the upper hand in his battle with Yan Xinghua, but he had been injured by his opponent's inexplicable counterattack. When he had lost his dignity and wanted to escape, Luo Qingyun had stepped in at the critical moment and snatched the fruit of his hero, saving the beauty. So that was how it was. Shimin Jinlin's murderous aura burst out. The power of his domain pushed Nailin Jishuan a few meters away. He said to Luo Qingyun, I understand now. So, it was you who had been playing tricks in the dark all along. Luo Qingyun looked at him coldly and snorted. He was so proud that he didn't even bother to explain. He poured himself a cup of wine and drank it. However, he was also extremely shocked in his heart. It was impossible for Su Qing and Pei Mingyuan to make a move without being noticed by so many people. At least, it was impossible for them to do so under his nose. Then, the only person present was Yunxiao. He also thought of another relationship. With Shimin Jinling's strength, he should have been able to defeat Yan Xinghua, but he did not know why he had fled. Yunxiao must have played a part in it. With that thought in mind, Luo Qingyun found it hard to calm down. He gave Yunxiao a cold glance, who was still pretending to be shocked by what had happened in front of him and drinking happily to calm himself down. How strong was he? You actually sneaked a move right under my nose. Luo Qingyun's blood was boiling, and his heart was filled with irritation. He could not help but want to fight Yunxiao right now. Luo Qingyun's eagerness to fight fell into Shimin Jinlin's eyes, and he thought that the other party had tacitly agreed. He was even more furious, and his aura soared into the sky, crushing toward Luo Qingyun. Luo Qingyun suddenly crushed the wine cup with a bang. A force immediately flowed slowly above him, blocking the aura of Shimin Jinling. At the same time, his body began to glow with a sharp light. He slowly raised his eyes and looked at Shimin Jinlin. Just by looking at him, Shimin Jinlin's body trembled, and a chill ran down his spine. Luo Qingyun looked like a long spear that was about to be pulled out of its body. It could suddenly shake at any time and pierce through all obstacles in front of it. Shimin Jinlin broke out in a cold sweat. He no longer had the will to fight. He couldn't understand why his opponent was so afraid of him even though his cultivation was obviously 1 star higher than his. Fear in the heart, defeat before the battle. Stop. Young Master Shimin, I believe that Brother Luo didn't do that. Nailin Jishuan shouted. Apart from Yunxiao, who could tell at a glance that Westgate Jinling was strong in appearance but weak in reality, the others felt that they were evenly matched in the battle of auras. Nailin Jishuan was afraid that if they really fought, it would inevitably lead to casualties. Su Qing and Pei Mingyuan secretly felt that it was a pity. They could not wait to see a good show. Shimin Jinlin was originally afraid, but now that Nailin Jishuan came out to stop him, he immediately regained his confidence and said angrily, not him? Who else could it be besides him? Su Qing smiled faintly and said, Brother Shimin, you must have evidence to accuse someone. No one will admit it if you mess around like this. Shimin Jinlin replied coldly, I don't have any evidence, but I can deduce it with a simple deduction. When I was fighting with the 7 Stars Marshal Supreme, I was sure to win, but I was attacked by an innocent man. After that, I was stunned. His face suddenly turned red and he paused. Yunxiao laughed. What happened to you after that? How did he turn defeat into victory?